Welcome everybody. I'm Tish Hicks. I'm the Master Sensei of the V.O Dojo here in Burbank, California. And this is our monthly information resource called Get to Know V.O. So each month on the third Wednesday of the month, we have something that is sharing some aspect of the voiceover business that hopefully will be helpful to you wherever you are and wherever you're going. Um, we are super excited to have one of our dear Dojo Senseis, Terri Nicole, here talking about conferences. It kind of is conference season, and conferences are a thing that as you are building your journey, you might come across one. You might not even know that they exist. You might come across one and go, "What is it? Shall I be there?" And it's really easy to think that you must be there. And if you're not, nothing will ever happen in your career, ever. And that is not true. It's a good thing to do, so super excited to delve into this. What we do at the dojo is we take you from mystery to mastery. So it might be whatever level of mystery is around conferences. We'd love to just shine some light on it and demystify it. Kelsey B is here moderating for us with us. So yeah, without further ado, we'd love to hear where you guys are coming from. This is good. And yeah, I think I will hand it over to Terry. Take it away, Terry.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. So good to see you guys. I am actually a coach here, a sensei at the dojo, and I also came through the dojo. And of all the training I've had, the dojo training has been without a doubt, hands down, what has given me peace in my career, as well as focus, as well as help, as well as a community. It's been a game changer. So I'm always happy when I get to come and share with the dojo community. It's very important to me. I just wanted to do a quick check in and see how everybody is feeling today. I know there's so much going on in our world. So, we're all human. So, how are we doing today? I'll tell you, for me, I'm feeling better. I've been a little bit under the weather. I haven't been feeling my best. So, I'm feeling better today. That's a really good word for me. So, voiceover conferences, you want to talk about voiceover conferences together and learn a little bit more. So, here's a very high level overview. Um, I'm an educator, so I approach everything from like, what can we learn and what can we learn to do better. So I'm not here to sell you a conference. I have no conference to sell you, not yet. Maybe one day. But I'm here as a fellow voice actor to talk about like how conferences work, and most importantly, how can you, if you decide that's something you want to invest in at this point in your career, how can you leverage them to work best for you. And then I think the most important thing about anything we do, and this is something we talked about, Tish talks about in the dojo, is that you're in control of your career. So you get to decide after you take in information like, oh, that's something that's nice to know, or that's really important. I want to check out a conference, or I'm really curious. Maybe I'll do some research about a conference. So why VO conferences? Before I go into the next piece, I want to know, why do you think a voiceover conference might be important or not to your career as a voice artist? Some of you have been, because I know a couple of you in the chat, and some of us haven't. So what are some reasons a voiceover conference might matter? Why might they be important, or why might we go? Someone said networking. Cool. That is extremely important. Meeting people face to face. Okay, how many times do we have all these online friends and you're like, I get to see you face to face? Super important. Education, upskilling. Yes, definitely. Trying things that you haven't tried, like a different genre. I'll wait for one or two more. Speed run some training. Kelsey, what do you mean speed run? Tell me, what can you unmute and tell us what you mean by that?
Yeah, like going to workshops like in a way that you normally wouldn't be able to do. Like during the whole year. You can just go back to back workshops if you want to, and you can learn
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, I love that you said that. So Galena White is on the call, and we are collaborating on a course about conferences for people who are curious. Because we see a lot of curiosity about conferences. And one thing Galena calls it is VO school. Like you get to go and learn about so many different genres. You get to hear from casting directors. You get to meet new voiceover folks who can become a resource for you. Success school. I'm sorry, she's corrected me. Success school. How to be successful. And a lot of that is in networking with the people who are there and finding out like what's been working for them. Can you hear
Conferences
it?
are in every discipline you can think of. Even like sanitation workers have conferences. So
Right.
understanding how businesses work and how career paths, the trajectory of career paths is what conferences kind of help you understand when you get in there and you see the different levels of performance and careers and where people are when they walk in the door and where they're trying to get to. And you're talking to the people who are already on the mountaintop, so to speak, and they're literally
Mhm.
sharing with you, this is how I got here and how my path is different from how this other person got here.
Just like if you were at a doctor and the doctor said, oh, I won't be in, I'm going to a conference. Like after a while, when you keep hearing that from, people that you hire to help you in whatever way, and they're going to learn and keep themselves educated, you immediately trust that. Who wants to be with a doctor that refuses to go to conferences or refuses to learn anymore? You wouldn't go to them. You go to conferences to not just learn and absorb, which you absolutely will, but you can also challenge yourself in terms of where you're at so that when you walk out the door of a conference, you're like a different person.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the idea of being a different person when you leave speaks to what you get out of that time you're there and how you use it and how you leverage it. So, in addition to all the reasons you talked about with networking and going to success school and learning all these things, seeing people face to face, it's the professional, sort of like a professional boost, right? When you post that you went to a conference or you see someone on LinkedIn posting, you're like, they're really serious about what this thing is that they're doing. Doesn't mean if they don't post about it, they're not, but it's just one more thing, right? One more indicator that helps us, kind of like social proof of that. Awesome. Let me share again. Oh, before we go on, how many conferences can we name? It's okay if you can name none, or it's okay if you go and Google real quick, but let's see how many we can name. And they don't always stay static, but there's a, sort of a solid handful. So in the chat, if you could type in like I see Mavo, um, the Mid Atlantic Voice Conference, Wovo, One Voice. So Voice is yeah. So Voice slash that's voiceover. One Voice View Atlanta.
I think
Cool.
New England conference.
Oh, New England.
So,
Thank you.
mhm.
So here are the ones that for this year are still coming up. So many of them have passed. So this weekend you've got eVocation, which is the online portion to vocation. So that's online. That's coming up this weekend. Then there is next year already. So VO Atlanta, which is known also as the Super Bowl of voiceover conferences. That's happening in March. That's voiceover, which we just talked about. Joan and Rudy. That's the SOVA slash that's voiceover. That's happening in December. And then here's some ones that have just recently passed. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mavo did not pass the Mid Atlantic. That's coming up in November. What's passed is the One Voice conferences. They have a Dallas one and a London one. Game VO appeared for 1 year. I don't know if it appeared for 2 years, but that's Dave Benoit's conference. I heard great things about it. Don't know if he's going to do it again or has done it again. And then here's a few. Oops. Chicago. That's coming up. That's a WovoCon. That's in October, and I think that's it. Yeah. So, if you were going to choose a conference to investigate or possibly attend, how do you make your choice on which? Wow, these are all great choices. They're all by great organizers. Which one do I choose, if any? Anybody have any insight of those of you who attended, or even if you're curious, what do you determine what should what should be a determining factor in choosing a voiceover conference?
I got to admit, I've actually presented at a number of these conferences. So it's a really overwhelming experience to be in a room with 1,000 people for VO Atlanta, as opposed to 85 people at the WOVO conference last year. You can just imagine the differences of just the way it makes you feel to be in that kind of space.
Thank you. Yeah. I think overwhelm, as Hugh said, is one of the in doing interviews and talking to program conference participants. Overwhelm was a huge factor, and normally in the bigger conferences. So feeling like, wow, there's so much to do, there's so many people, there's so many opportunities, that fear of missing out. So I'm glad you brought that out.
Hey Terry. Hey
Hey,
Terry.
Terry.
Hey Kelsey. Hey everybody.
Mhm.
I'm gonna actually talk about one that we haven't mentioned yet, which is vocation. Because I went for the first time this year to vocation, and vocation fits two of the criteria that I wanted. Um, it's a way more intimate conference, and you could like look and see who was presenting and if it was something, and it's all about the business of voiceover as well. So we're all looking to build our businesses. Most of us here are not like super established people for 20 years. So um, you could look and see how you can move your business forward. And even if you are a very well established business, you could still learn other business techniques because most of us did not come from owning a business into coming into this. This might be the first small business that any of us have owned. Um, so talking about taxes, you're talking about like write-offs, you're talking about just building your studios. It had little something for every area of voiceover, and there were not choices. It was you, everyone went to the same class at the same time, right? Erica J did a presentation about avoid. It's like she got audited when she first started in voiceover. So she talked about how you could avoid that and what she did to get and what she did to when it happened to her. Um, Also, it was in Costa Rica, so that was pretty dope. So you get the vacation, you get to write off a vacation as a business trip while you're also learning. So that's all I got to say.
Excellent.
That's all I got to say about that.
No, that's excellent. You brought up so many good points. I mean, at different moments in our career, one experience may appeal to us more than other. We may have a need for one more than others. Especially the business part, some of us sleep on that part and go, yeah, 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 it's all about the mic. It's all about the performance, right? And then we realize no matter how great that is, if the business isn't intact and you're not having your taxes taken out, right? Even though that sounds so boring, boy, are you going to feel that, when it's tax time. So all those things are important. And you bring up another thing when you talk about it as a vacation and a write-off. That's true, right? Cost. Right, we don't all have the same budget. We don't all have the same budget every year. We may a voiceover conference may be a someday goal for some of us, right? It's like, oh, maybe in my 3 year plan, 3 to 5 year plan, that's year three, right? But it's not year one. Maybe I'm going to work up to that and make sure I can justify that in my business plan. Many of us have business plans or expansion plans. I know I do an expansion plan every year and go, okay, what's going to change? Okay, what am I going to do better? And that's what's so cool is that's something we get to decide how we move our business forward. So yeah, what are your goals? That's what matters most. Where are you in your career? What are your goals? We know we need a healthy mix of performance, knowing what's happening in our journey, knowing what's happening in the industry, knowing things that we need to pay attention to. So I know for me, if I see a session on voiceover and AI, I'm going because it's 2024. So I want to be aware of what's happening, whether I love it or not. I'm going because I want to be prepared. Some of us you may choose to do a different genre. Maybe you're doing great in commercial, and you're like, I want to add TV narration. In show. I don't even really know what that is. Those are some of the best sessions when you go and you hear people, speaking of Erica J, who are doing TV, lots of TV narration, and you get to go and hear her talk about the very specific things that she did to get in that position, what it pays, which was really surprising to me. I was like, oh, maybe that's not such a big goal, unless I really passionately want to do it. Because now that I learned what it pays, which you can't always find online, right? Now that I know that, that might be, same thing with anime or video games. I might go, oh, I thought I was going to be a millionaire if I start doing anime, and I learn a little bit more. I go, well, if I'm not super passionate, maybe that's not a goal. So knowing what your goals are going to help you make the most out of the investment of voiceover conference. And speaking of investment, we'll look at a little bit of just this is a little bit dated because we did this. This is Galena actually put this together. I'm not going to even say help for. I think this was 2023 maybe. So this is a brief. This is not the official. This is just our looking at what it would cost. So you can see there's three, four, $500. Of course, this one was a vacation sort of thing, and like for a week resort, so that's way different. And I think I have a little bit more on the next page. Yeah. So it just really depends. And then if it's not in your area, right? So that's voiceover. I'm actually going to be teaching on e-learning. That's my specialty because I've been in education forever and I love e-learning. So I've got to, factor in things like I got to eat every day. If I'm going all the way to LA, I want to stay an extra day or two so I can sightsee, right? I've never been to LA before except in the airport. So things like that. You're gonna want to get your hair done or a haircut before you go. You're probably want to get an outfit, right? All those things. I know we're just like, oh, the ticket, but there's so much more to, as we know, for traveling for anything that comes up. Um, Things like making sure you pack snacks, and water, making sure you have a schedule that includes sleeping enough so that when you're in those classes and you're taking all that information in, you're not falling asleep and not using the time as well as you could. So if you're, sorry for the typo at the top. What are the steps? What are the steps to thinking about voiceover conferences? Is know where you are. What is your readiness to use that time and money and that investment well? Oh yeah, Terry added checking your bags if you're taking your equipment, booking out of studio. Now, if you're taking your equipment, that means you're probably ready to audition and book. Like many people have gigs during the conference time, so you'll have to call ahead and say, "Oh, what studios are in the area?" Or you'll have to take your equipment with you. If you're still auditioning, you'll have to factor that time in. So yeah, so what is your readiness in terms of where you are career-wise? So if you're just starting out, your readiness might be, I have the budget and I want to see what this is about. So maybe I'm going to go to a really big one and see everything. Or maybe I'm going to go to one like Terry talked about vocation, which is a curated experience. That's voiceover is a curated experience where the organizers have said, we're going to bring the absolute best people together to take you through a journey, a guided journey that our 30 years in the industry has said, this is what really is today is going to help people move forward. So what are your readiness financially? What is your readiness in your daily schedule? Many of us out there are caretakers of either children, elderly parents. We're very involved in our communities. So a conference may be off the table. There are those of us who have illnesses that we cannot be around 1,000 people. We can't be around 75 people for an extended. So there are so many issues and topics to consider. So just know where you are and I think if you spend the bulk of your time thinking about where you are and if this makes sense, then the next step is like, okay, now start seeing what's out there. Knowing what your readiness is and what your goals are. I want to expand to, in-show narration. And I want to, I need to up my marketing game. I'd say 2 or 3 really concrete goals. Sure, you can have 9, but how effective would they be, right? So 2 or 3 really concrete goals when you go, and then take an inventory of what's out there, find the alignment, and including in your budget and not just in, oh, this is the best for me. Well, this might be the best for you, but it may require, $2,500 when you're ready to spend $1,000 is your budget. So find the alignment in your budget and what's offered. It's also great if you could find what am I saying? Like find a community. So if you're already part of an online forum or a community like the VO Dojo, who else is going? How can you maximize? Because you can divide and conquer. You can body double and split up. So find the alignment, find your people, and then make sure you have a good pre, during, and after conference plan. That is really important. I see Kelsey, you have your hand up. So Put a pin in it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say another part of the budget that people don't consider is networking happens so much around the dinner table or the lunch table. Like a lot of networking is eating out. And sometimes I just went to One Voice. Tish sent me there, and I had to skip out because I was like, man, I'm a 20 something. I can't be afford to be eating out every evening, you know. But yeah, and it's something I didn't even think of. So
Yeah. Really good point. That and a lot of networking takes place around the bar. Just even after the restaurants are closed in that hotel, usually the bar will stay open. So even if you don't drink, just pulling up and I mean you can always order a glass of water or not drink, but that's something to consider. Thank you for bringing that up. Are there any other comments on this topic before I move on to just kind of navigating the conference pre, post, and pre, during, and post? I love when you guys get your voices in here. Okay, well, you can always stop me. So some of the things that I think the first conference I ever went to, I didn't do any of these things. I just kind of was like, oh, I think it'll be great. And I think a lot of us have this experience where we just kind of show up. But if you want to maximize your dollar and your time away from your family, away from your whatever your daily activities are, your volunteer work, whatever you do, study the schedule. And also, there are Facebook group. So if you decide to purchase a ticket, you get into a Facebook like attendees for evocation or that's voiceover, so forth via Atlanta. That's when you can start the prep work where if there's changes, the organizers can post changes. You can start to maybe you want to meet up with somebody there, but start to get familiar. Um, Generally you'll get like a what am I trying to say, like the workbook, the schedule book that shows you like what room things are in, what's being offered, and I'll get to another point, and also like extra sessions, I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, do the homework of studying, and also check out like who these people are who are offering. Not all what am I going to say, presenters are going to offer your style. So if you need something really hands on, look and see the person's work or maybe other presentations that you can find. If you're happy kind of sitting and getting and just having someone walk you through the steps and taking lots of notes, do that. But definitely study the schedule and know what's coming up. Look at the previous years. And then again, this is all Galina's work here. So thank you, Galina, for all this. And actually, Galina, you want to talk a little bit about looking at like what's the benefit of looking at the previous years? Why would that be important?
Yeah, it's really important for a number of reasons. First of all, you get to see who's current in the industry. You get to see what people were talking about the year before in comparison to what's happening now. And there can be a lot of changes, a lot of things um, could have been the highlight of the year or the industry the year before, and then maybe not so much now, or ways in which you can move successfully to the new juncture, for instance, AI. That's a big talk right now. And, you get to learn about things that you're scared to know and to go into the chat group and just ask the question. Can you imagine sitting there going through all these messages of what's good, what's not, who's had experiences here, And so it's great to keep abreast of what's happening. Great tips from agencies and production houses, and it just is. You also get to keep people's information, and you get to know, okay, they might not go to a conference next year, but somebody who was on a conference speaking the year before, they might end up being very important in your future. So it's just a great way to keep abreast of, there's so much information that you end up forgetting things. You might even, how many subscriptions have you signed up for in a year and you've forgotten about it? So you forget about things that people
Huh?
say to you sometimes. You forget
Not
about
us.
calls sometimes just because they're not on the forefront of your mind because #life. Um, and so if you can, if they have hard copies, books, get those, keep those, and then just go back for a refresh and be like, oh yeah, I remember, and this person is now, and we're this now. And so yeah, that's a good reason to keep track of your past schedules and just people that were speaking in past conferences, even if you weren't able to attend.
Yeah, and I went to the next slide because you were saying some of the things there too, like know who the presenters are and understand like there are people who can help you with your career. You may even want to coach outside with some of those at some point. So it's good to start knowing. One of the tips that I love, we interview a frequent conference goer named Shaquana Bell. Um, and one of the things she said, like if you're going to sign up for a class, email them ahead of time, let them know to expect you, then go up to them and say, "Oh, I emailed you." And she said, "Of course they'll be like, oh, I'm sorry I didn't get to that." Right? Like sometimes that happens. And then email them after to thank them for the class. So that's a really cool tip that I'm using from here on out because it just establishes a rapport with that person and a sort of a conversation trail that you can continue on in the future. And it just shows, just shows your willingness to be part of the community and advocate for yourself. So yeah, so you can create, you can use, there's templates out there, there's workbooks. We're working on a workbook where you can actually make your schedule. I would strongly suggest making a schedule, even if it's loose. You don't have to stick to it like glue, but just you're going to see your friends. Someone's going to be like, "Oh, you got to attend this," or they're doing such and such right now in such and such group, and you're going to be so tempted. And if you went to accomplish a goal, you just want to make sure you're honoring that. Another thing to do, I think, that is really critical when you set goals is to set goals for community. So instead of just setting like, I want to meet Jeffrey Youngberger, everybody wants to meet Jeffrey Youngberger, one of the top agents, right? He works for ACM. I don't know what it is about Jeffrey Youngberger. We all had to meet him. But not that there's nothing wrong with that, but just like today, I'd like to add 3 or 4 colleagues that I don't know to my contact list, right? Because I'm telling you, when we're in our booths or we're trying to quote in a genre we haven't to a new client, and we're like, oh man, okay, on my list I have so and so, right? And I've just slapped them in a spreadsheet. This is their name, this is their contact information. Here's the genres they're good at, and now I have this like built-in database that whenever I have an issue, I can have somebody to reach out to. Cool, cool, cool.
Another form of follow-up is replay. Some conferences have replay and some don't.
Thank you. And some have conference replay of certain things and not others. So you may get a replay of bigger sessions, but not of a personal, private, because X session or extra session. Thank you very much for that, Hugh. Yeah, so you want to make sure you're doing performance stuff, business stuff, tech stuff, and networking.
Yeah. I wanted to say one
Yes,
more thing,
please.
Terry, about just I think at a conference, sometimes it becomes like there is such a schedule, and you do want to make choices about the things that you want to take in. And then don't underestimate the value of I missed that thing because I was in this conversation with this person,
Ooh.
and that is oftentimes equally as valuable, if not more valuable, than taking in the information that you might be able to listen into a replay because you've made that human connection, that like to be able to go with the flow as well, let the universe guide you to the opportunities is something to keep in mind as well.
I think that's beautiful, and also leave room for surprises. Leave room
Uh-huh.
like I've seen. We're all different personality types, and I have a friend who's like every minute is scheduled, and she's gonna stick to that thing. And it's like, well, where's the room for discovery, right? So maybe not have such a tight schedule, right? And feel like you have to, like Tish said, go to everything. But maybe you'll be like, oh, I didn't even see that on the schedule, but they're doing, or that what's happened sometimes is if something is in demand, a conference organizer may say, oh, we'll just repeat that session. That has happened. So you may get to see something that you didn't see by just being loose and, a little loose with your schedule. Kelsey.
Yes, something that I did at One Voice is just if there's a class or something you want to attend, but it either wasn't in your budget or the signups were full, you can just ask to audit. Most of the teachers In fact, I asked to audit, and some of the teachers just let me participate. Um, so it's the worst thing you can do is not ask and wonder, and be sad about it.
Yeah,
But the worst thing they can say is no.
yeah, first
Yeah.
rule of the dojo, know what you want, ask for it, people will give it to you if you allow. That's interesting. That's cool. And yeah, and the worst thing they can say is no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
cool.
don't have because you don't ask. Yeah. I saw a question about staying focused, and Kelsey, you mentioned the Pomodoro timer, and I live by the Pomodoro timer, which is
Mm,
you go Palm Online, Palm IO Focus, I think it's called, or Palm Focus IO. For just like, okay, I'm not spending it more than 25 minutes on this task. Or I usually what I do is I predict how many Pomodoros I need to finish this task.
mm,
Boy, does that help to stay on schedule. That was I can't remember whose question was that. That was Robert.
mm,
And then you mentioned overwhelm too. If I can pull it up quickly while everybody's wrapping up in just a minute, I have it's actually a meditation that a meditation voiceover person named Barbara Faison, who's a friend of mine, made because I wanted to have a freebie um, when I was in the exhibition call, and I would have a freebie to give, and I was like, what do people need at a conference? I'm like, they need 5 minutes of peace.
mm,
I did that for the community, not knowing that I needed to do that. So I was so overwhelmed that I had to go step away, look out a window, and do that. And my ears went from here, my shoulders went from by my ears to like, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so uptight and so wound up with excitement, but just pressure. So I can share a link to that while everybody's wrapping up. Did I miss anything in the chat? Thank you, Kelsey, for putting focus. Yeah. Yeah, having a plan, having a loose plan, and not feeling like you have to stick to every single second does help with overwhelm. Just just when we know, just like when you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do, but then you write it out, you go, oh, and that's all manageable. Okay, right? But it just feels crazy when it's bouncing our head. So just quickly, additional sessions. There's always, I don't know about every single conference, right? Anybody can correct me, but additional sessions that you pay extra, X sessions or extra sessions to attend if you really want to go deep. So I'll give you for VoiceOver Atlanta, for example, you can, if you really want to study, commercials or e-learning for me, you can sign up for a 3 hour session. There's no more than 12 people in that session for VO Atlanta. And I think it's like additional 250, something like that. But you get really in depth for 3 hours instruction. So most of them have something like that if you have the interest and budget for that. I did one with Dave Fenoy for video games. I was just wow, that was amazing, amazing. So let's see. I think yeah. Oh yeah, you can save money on early registration. Like even though View Atlanta is in March, it's had early registration for the last few months. So there's, oftentimes there'll be discounts that people give on their podcasts. Podcasts are another great way to find out about what's happening with VO conferences. Look for the guests to be on, especially around their season time, to learn more, and you should get some kind of a discount.
Actually, there's a podcast that I listen to, um, like as it's a voiceover podcast, and I got to meet the woman who runs it. And so like I feel like that's really valuable to like just take in all the free resources you can, and then you're able to make connections based off of that. Because I'm like, oh hey, yeah, I watched your podcast. So and so was just on, and we actually ended up being able to make a really good connection because of that.
Awesome. Yeah, and that would be like the prep work before you go. Just
Um,
tuning in while you're driving. Yeah.
Terry, maybe you're going to get to this, but while we're talking about what happens at the event, um, I think it's really super important to talk about vocal health, mental health, and health in general. I know Kelsey got COVID after the conference, and oftentimes at a conference, it's really contradictory that voiceover people would get together and then we blow out our voices because we're so excited and everything's so loud and we're talking all the time. So like anything that you want to like strategies about that, and then just pacing yourself, right? There's an intensity because you don't want to miss anything and you don't want to you know, sleep schmeep in some ways, and then how do you balance that out? Any thoughts about that before we go to what happens after?
Yeah, that's everything. I mean, I think every voiceover conference, and it has had consequences. So is serious. You know, a lot of us have blown out our voices, and it can take a week or two to get it back sometimes, or
Mm,
cortisone shot or visit to the doctor. So, yeah, I think disciplining yourself, because if you're around people, you're going to want to talk, and it is
mhm,
okay to say, I know I had this on my schedule, but I'm about to go up to my room and take a nap,
mm,
and drink some water and have some tea and just have some me time. I think me time is one of the because it gives you a chance to just reflect on, like, okay, right? I have to take care of me. I'm the only one here responsible for taking care of me, and if I don't do it, so for me, I have to remove myself. I don't know if anybody has other tips for, taking care. Lots of water, do teas. Not doing a lot of, just sugary stuff, because there's always treats and things like that, and then taking me time and going to my room and napping. That is part of my conference schedule. Napping.
Terry, I would say a big thing that people don't think about is like wash your hands during the conference. Just wash your hands. Like randomly, if you're like, man, I just shook like 50 people's hand, just go to the bathroom, get a quick, scrub in. And
Yeah,
because I wish I had done that, because I probably wouldn't have gotten COVID if I would have just washed my hands more,
wash your
to be
hands.
honest.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of us who are immunocompromised, like, there's no shame in wearing a mask. Like, mask up, or if you're just nervous, mask up. What are people going to do? Look at you funny for 2 seconds? Like, it used to be the norm, right? And now it's stopped being the norm, and we look funny when people have a mask on these days. But mask up. Anything else on that? I didn't have a whole lot on that one. But, the other thing I want to say is be ready. I forgot to add a slide on this before we talk about the follow up, and the follow up is pretty quick. Is What's your communication tool? The business card. You can bring your business cards if you want, for sure. Bring your business cards if you paid for business cards. In interviewing the organizers, one of the things that they strongly said is, like, nobody's looking for your business cards. We don't go to conferences going, great, I'm going to collect a bunch of business cards from people I've never met before. So if that is your only strategy, I'm not saying don't give them out, but just be mindful that not everybody wants your business card. I think business cards personally are best used amongst ourselves, amongst other voice talent. I personally use something called Blink, which is, there's hi, hello, there's these little QR codes that just are right on your phone. And so when you meet somebody, they just quickly scan it. They've got your whatever information you've put in there. Of course, there's always, social media, Instagram. If you want, if nothing else, you're going to get more followers, right, when you go to a
mhm,
conference. But just have what is your quick way of exchanging information, realizing that business cards don't hold the weight and place that they used to. So think of what your digital strategy, in addition to business card. I'm not saying don't use them, but just realize no one's begging for your voice card. And the goal is in the follow up. Yes, one of the things that it was Joan Baker who and Rudy who emphasized this when we were in our interviews. And Galena will attest to this, that um, the mindset of voiceover conferences, or conferences in general, it can sometimes be, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get booked, I'm going to get discovered, I'm going to get an agent. Right? It's all one way towards you. And I think we need to flip that, right? Instead of like, what can I get? It's all about me. It's like, what can I share with the community? Maybe you can listen to someone's story. Right? Maybe you can say, oh, I'm going to send you that link to something that you just mentioned. I think that will help you. Maybe it's just allowing someone an agent who gets, everybody wants to meet that agent, a chance to talk about their dog, right, in a
mhm,
conversation. Some of the most beautiful conversations are us just being ourselves and connecting on a human level, and not thinking about what can I get from this person, but just how can I connect with this person. And you'll be surprised what comes out of genuine connection with other humans. Because when you genuinely know and like someone, you want to help them, right? You want to be, you're looking for opportunities. Some of those benign connections 3 years later end up to be, oh yeah, remember we talked about, right? I told you about my dog and you told me about your cat and that was so funny, right? And it ends up being a fond connection that turns into something, but that's not the intention. So I once met a woman who, this is at a different conference, and I said, oh, what are your goals? And she's like, oh, I'm getting a $10,000 contract out of this conference. And I was like, she probably had a real interesting conference, and so did everybody she met. Because you're just like, what can I get? And that's all that's important. So the goal is in the follow up, just briefly. Everything that we do at the conference, it's either for fun or for purpose, right? So if you just go because you want to know the lay of the land and you have the budget to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. But if when you don't go home, you haven't thought about how you're going to follow up, it's not as valuable. Your attendance and your investment is not as valuable. Even if it's just to say, great to meet you, looking forward to staying in touch. Those touch points are so important. So make sure you, if someone said, please send me your demo, please, send me that podcast you mentioned, just have a plan in your schedule even for how you're going to follow up. Have a plan for like, are you a Google Docs person? Are you going at the end of the day like, oh, I met these 5 people? Or are you a notebook person? What is your communications strategy and your follow up strategy? That's where it happens, and after the conference is where it happens. So I'll end there. I know there's lots of things that we could continue to talk about. There's so much to conferences for questions and comments.
So in terms of the dojo, we are here um, the first Wednesday of every month with Ask the Sensei, free Q&A. This is happens the third Wednesday every month. If you're on the beginning of a journey, our last You Should Do Voiceover Launchpad and Workout is happening in October. So and if you are on the journey, we actually do our version of a conference is actually what we call the nth degree intensive, which is coming up in November. And we like to think of it as like a conference, but with 20 people. So a very intimate conference, a very focused, like with a through line. I think at a conference, it can be like so much good stuff, but it's like, whoa, 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 everywhere. So this has a through line to it, a group of people, and culminates with a full afternoon of meeting agents, a panel of 3 agents and managers that we do a panel discussion. Everybody's demos get individual reviews, and you get basically a mini interview with the agents. So that's coming up in Veterans Day weekend. Would love to talk with you about that. Anything about the dojo? You can sign up for time to talk with me called a voiceover once over. Yeah, and we'd love to hear with you, hear where you're at and where you're going.
I answered one about funding. So yeah, that's a great question. There are business funding opportunities out there. We should all, as small business owners, be looking at grants. I just got a grant through this place I put in the chat. Hello, Alice. I found the grant opportunity there. It's like a $5,000 grant. It comes with like new computers. It comes with business consulting. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, be applying for grants. And I wouldn't necessarily tell somebody to take out a business loan, but most businesses do at some point with very good strategy take out a business loan.
Yeah.
So
And I think, one of the things we talk about at the dojo, sometimes as artists, creativity gets separated from business. And the way we approach it here is that business is actually equally as creative as anything that you're doing artistically. So if you go, I need $2,000 to go to this thing, what could I do? What would you do if you were a little kid that needed a cookie? Who could you ask? Like how can you say, and not, and also to think more smartly than I'll just plunk it on my credit card, because
mm,
that's not necessarily a good strategy unless you know that it's coming in, but to make sure that you're not going, it's not becoming detrimental down the line. But could you do a pre-birthday Christmas thing? Could you do a bake sale? Could you what other ways can you get to what you want and use your creativity that way? And then
Right.
I think someone also said that a lot of conferences have scholarships or have ways to be an ambassador to how can you help? How can you help
Oh, yeah.
with the event? Like how can you be of service is always a good way in. Um, I know my friend Alessandra Levy was totally instrumental with her helping at one of the first vocation events, and it really, she was really able to connect with a lot of people, and people know her as an invaluable person. She was one of our first producers on the nth degree intensive because I knew her to be invaluable. So
Mhm.
be invaluable and offer what you can do to help. That's a lot. So, and
Um,
creativity.
Terry, on scholarships and grants and stuff, there's also this nonprofit called Armed Services Arts Partnership,
Ooh.
and it's like a almost like an art school for veterans and their loved ones. You don't even have to be a veteran. Um, you can just be tangentially related to one or a help,
Hmm.
like a caregiver or something.
Oh, I
And
see.
they
Okay.
have scholarships as well, and they'll fund like up to $500 of any class you want to take, or like work, or in this case, like conference, anything you
Mm,
want.
I
And
love
so
that.
voiceover is under that as well.
I'm bookmarking it now.
And I'm seeing an upcoming Get to Know VO emerging. So
Yeah,
this is great.
sources
Yeah.
for
Yes.
Mhm.
financial resources.
Yeah.
Definitely. Another thing I thought about is that exhibition hall that a lot of us a lot of us avoid because I think we think it's like somebody's gonna say, "Hey, pretty lady, come here." Like, can I introduce you and this whatever? It's not like that. Yes, people are in there to make money and to sell, but most of the times because I've been in the exhibition hall before, it's about sharing with the community. So usually people will have have time to talk to you if you just have questions. So that's an area I would say you should take advantage of that. No one's going to be like, wait, you're not buying anything, move along, right? They're going to talk to you. So if you have questions, you're going to get some scoops, some insights. There's usually a freebie, and there's always candy. So go into the exhibition hall, and depending on where you are in your career, so maybe it's a someday goal, or maybe it's a next year goal or this year goal, think about being a presenter. Think about being a presenter, particularly if you're from an underrepresented community that we don't get to hear from. Definitely think about being a presenter.
Mhm.
So whether that's, hey, having severe ADHD and being a voice artist, we need to hear what are the tips and tricks. If it's being an African American woman and you just have a different perspective, and attend people, to 10 people's classes who don't look like you, who are not from your background as well. But think about being an exhibitor, thinking about what you can offer, and thinking about being a presenter, and an instructor in some way during the conferences, as well as an ambassador where you get a huge discount off of the cost, and you get to now you don't get to go to every single class you want because you'll be working, but it's
Mhm.
invaluable to your career to do that.
I just want to piggyback off of the
Please.
exhibition hall because, like you said, a lot of people are afraid of the exhibition hall, but there's a lot of good things there for building your career. For instance, I got a chance to use the microphone, the Rode NT1 microphone that doesn't clip, and I actually saw Dave Fenoy demonstrate the microphone in the exhibition hall last year at VOA. So I was like, oh, well, if Dave Fenoy can use this microphone and Jordan Reynolds is using this microphone,
Mm.
why can't I not use this microphone? It's $250. It's a microphone that you can use for a good amount of your career.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a
Mhm.
very reasonable price for a good piece of equipment that grows with you from beginning to the middle of your career. I also got to go into one of the bear caves and try out some of the booths that they had there. I got
Mhm.
I got new headshots for like $60, which is an incredible price for headshots.
It's
So
kind of like
don't,
going to the auto show, right? You can kind of get
yeah,
in the car and try it on. Yeah, yeah, let's
yeah.
see what it feels like. Yeah.
A lot of stuff in there. Plus Terry was in there, so that was fun.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Like, is it still important to have a big social media presence? She's been off of Facebook because her son was just born and, has been taking care of a newborn. So obviously not the most time for social media ever.
Personally, I don't have a huge one, but I learned which one nets me the most gain, which is LinkedIn, hands down. When I post regularly, I, people contact me about jobs. That's the best thing I could say. And I never knew that until I started posting regularly. I put some budget aside and I got somebody to do it because I'm not really great at it for 3 months. So that whatever, I don't know what it was. I'm gonna say $1,200. I have no idea. I can't remember. Something like that. Let's just say it was that. It's paid dividends. It's paid for itself. I mean, you'd be surprised what people DM you when they see you and you keep coming up as somebody steady in the field and you share your work and you share your thoughts. So I would say maybe not think of it being huge, but find out like where your audience is. My audience for work is on LinkedIn. My audience for play is on Facebook. Like my friends and like being goofy is Facebook. So that way you're not like, I gotta post to all the socials today. Maybe you post twice a week and have a strategy, I would say.
I think that's another very interesting thing about going to conferences and voiceover conferences. What Rudy says is what is happening in our business. And then there's going to other conferences who are like the people that are doing promos, like go to Promax, go to um 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 e-learning, instructional development conference. Where are you going to go meet the people who are doing the things? The people that are actually going to be your purchasers, that your clients. That's another way to approach conferences. Knowing each other is awesome, and we
Mm-hmm.
learn so much, and it's very, very important to be part of the community and connected and have resources and things like that. And then there's also, we may not be getting jobs from that, but there's other conference things that you could go to that could be part of your business strategy as well. How do you go where you're the only voiceover person, or meeting all the people who are game developers, or the people who are making the things?
My question is, Terry,
Yeah.
so I had someone be like, hey, go talk to this person and tell them I sent you, right? But I wasn't able to go to that person because conferences, Jesus, it's like trying to nail down one person is wild, right? It's just chaos. So I wasn't able to get meet them, but this is a person I still wanted to connect with because they've worked on a lot of projects I've liked. And so what I did was I just sent them an email and was like, "Hey, so and so told me and let me connect with you." How would you approach something like that?
As soon as you can before the conference, and then I would do if I didn't hear back, because they're going to be busy, they're traveling, they're making sure
Hmm.
their pets are at the dog sitters and all that. So
Yeah,
people are extremely busy. Were they one of the presenters or an attendee? Do you remember?
like a presenter, so someone who's like running from place to place to place, super busy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, definitely presenters are there. If you're a presenter, most times you're subsidized to be there, if that makes sense, right? Especially if you're a big name presenter, you might be subsidized, so maybe your room is comp, whatever. So there is an expectation, and just because voiceover people are kind people, that you're going to give back. You're going to spend time talking to people, answering questions, not just, oh, I get paid for this session and that's it, and I'm out of here. That's like really frowned upon at any conference. So yeah, I think if you would let the person know beforehand and then send them, a friendly reminder like, hey, want to grab, after your session, or want to grab a coffee or whatever. I'd love to buy you a coffee. Remember that spirit of giving. So you saying you missed that chance. So what would you do now?
Yeah, because you don't want to just completely drop that connection.
Yeah. I would type
But
in the subject line like, like referral from blah, blah, blah. If that person
okay, that's
listens,
exactly what I did.
yeah,
Okay.
referral from blah, blah, blah. And then, hey, blah, 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 so reminded me, thought it would be great for us to connect. ChatGPT will give you better wording than I can.
Sometimes there's like Vocation has a Facebook presence as well, so you could also
Ah.
maybe go like, hey Facebook crowd, or I'm like, hey person, I'm
Mhm.
trying to reach something like that. You could say like, hey, so and so said to, like, like almost a um an old school connections thing in a want ad or something like that. Could be another way to do it.
And there's always, I mean, it's the opportunity is gone as far as in person. There's always a person who is the troubleshoot, or people who are troubleshooters, and
Hmm.
they seem to get a lot of like pride out of helping you. So you
Mm,
could try to find, who's the, I don't know what you would call them, the ambassador or liaison or something like that.
mhm.
Try to
Right.
find, I know who it is at VO Atlanta, because I'm always like, hey Ron, it's me again. Could you? So yeah, there's always gonna be people who are happy to help. Yeah, I hope that, let us know how that works out.
Thank you.
And, yeah, and thank you, Simone, for your I was actually curious. I don't know if you can come off mic, or you the person who didn't have the mic. Well, you said that you are finding out on LinkedIn which of your skills are resonating with corporate professionals. If you could talk about that for a second.
Morning, everyone. So what I did was I got onto LinkedIn's services page. I'd started with, oh gosh, what was on there? I think, so I'm also a career executive assistant. And since I've graduated school and since we've come through COVID and kind of seen what that new normal looks like for us, I've shifted from English language and literature and theater when I was studying college to now, voice work and potentially e-learning and industrials and things like that. And so I had aimed first for the executive assistant things. And so I'd put information on that LinkedIn services page that that's what I was offering, because I was having trouble finding virtual executive assistant work. That portion of the page really wasn't returning any kind of response, except for a handful of recruiters who were like, well, here's how you game the ATS system, which was not what I needed. So recently, in the last couple of weeks, I went ahead and I updated that page. And so I've shifted its focus onto how do I help other actors by providing a, virtual scene reader resource, and put out there that, I work on narration work and things like that. But the thing that has returned a response that I did not expect was there's a section that you can put which skills you use or which skills you focus on. And it was public speaking. And so I've received a pretty steady influx of public speaking requests. Like, okay, can you coach me on this? I don't feel strong in leading meetings. I don't feel strong in, talking in front of other people. And so now I'm working on building out the framework for, okay, maybe this, has somewhere to go. Maybe I can lead public speaking, e-learning from a perspective of, here's how we do acting theater games to relax before we perform. Here's how you can integrate some processes of performance for leading meetings, and how do I build out that sort of e-learning process? Is that something that's viable for me? And I never would have thought of that if I had not gone onto the LinkedIn services page and looked at my skill set and said, okay, how can I help others?
And are you talking about like your business page, or this is something different that I don't know about?
So I have the business page, and the LinkedIn services page is like sort of an offshoot of that. LinkedIn messaged me. They sent me I don't know if it's in a prototype situation or if it's just available, or if you have to hit a certain metric on your business page. I'm not really sure exactly what the
we'll do
qualifiers were.
some research, because it
Yeah.
sounds super valuable, and
Yeah.
something that,
Yes.
yeah, that you can find out what's resonating with people, so that you can do more of that. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Yeah.
I figure you were a business person, so I thought we'd get some
Yep.
leverage that and get a little bit of information. So thank you for sharing.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you guys because I know people have to jump. So please, you can contact me through my website if you have like a burning question. I'm an e-learning guru, so if you have anything about e-learning voiceover, let me be a resource for you. If you're like, how do I quote this? Or friends of the dojo are my friends. So let me
Mm.
know that you're a dojo person when you reach out.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this episode of Get to Know VO. We know a little bit more. And we're available to answer any other questions or thoughts. Yeah, reach out to Terry, stay connected, sign up for a VOO if we don't know each other already. And yeah, it's been fantastic having you here. The replay is going to be available. If you want to share the replay with anybody who wasn't able to be here, that's always a great thing. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you next month with Joan and Rudy at the Ask the Sensei. We can kind of pick up this discussion and go even more in depth to people who have created a long running and an essential part of uh, the voiceover fabric with the That's Voiceover and the SOVAs awards and things like that. So. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks, Kelsey, for keeping everything flowing smoothly. Thanks, Terry, for sharing your insights and your expertise. And
Pleasure.
we'll see you all next time.